I'd like to start by saying it's a real pleasure and privilege to be invited along today just to speak to you guys and really give some insight into some of the support options that are available to really help you along on your business journey. My name's Paul and I work for a fantastic organisation called UME, and specifically I'm part of the Business Support Helpline contract. So in terms of UME, just to let you know, we're certainly on a mission. And what we're looking to do is to make it easier for businesses to get more done, go further and achieve more. And we have a fantastic website called weareume.co.uk. So by all means, take a visit to the website and you'll get a little bit more insight into what we actually do and how we can support you. In terms of the Business Support Helpline contract, so the Business Support Helpline is a free virtual multi-channel advice and guidance service, and we operate right across England. So no matter where you're based in England, you can actually access our service. It forms a key part of the government's business support provision, working on behalf of the Department for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy. We'll help all businesses, from those thinking about starting a business right through to those who are already established and trading. Advisors can signpost you to information on both the national and local scale. So that can include things like grants and loan opportunities, which will enable you to both start and then hopefully grow your business. Just to move on now, just to give you a little bit of detail around the actual customer journey itself. So in terms of how we can be contacted, we have a telephone helpline with a contact number of 0800 998 1098. We have a live web chat facility. We are contactable through email, and we also have a presence on all of the recognized social media platforms. So we have a very active Facebook page, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, and we also have a very comprehensive YouTube channel as well with some really good videos to give you a good insight into how to get started and then move forward. In terms of the service itself, we're a two-tiered service. So if we look at the tier one service first, so it's an initial triage, and typically the tier one advisors will deal with what we might term less complex inquiries. The service is open from Monday to Friday between the hours of 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. Contactable, as we've already said, through both the telephone, live web chat, email, and social media. Part of the tier one interaction will involve collection of customer details, and they will attempt to identify what the actual current needs of the client are. What they will then do, having identified what the needs are, they will look to signpost to any relevant support. Now, this may include signposting to your regional growth hub. And growth hubs are something I will come on to talk about a little bit later during the course of the presentation in terms of what they are and how they can actually help you. They will also look to signpost to both local and national schemes, as well as providing information just to support your inquiry and help move you forward. What they can also do at the tier one stage, depending on what your inquiry is, there may be an opportunity to book an appointment with one of our tier two advisors. So just, I guess, to move on and to give you an idea as to what the tier two service actually offers. So typically more complex inquiries with a more in-depth need, pre-booked appointments free of charge, as is the tier one service. Telephone appointments are available from 8 a.m. in the morning. The last appointment we do is 5 p.m. Typically to allow for a 6 p.m. finish. Tier 2 service can also be accessible through web chat, through social media and via email. Typically the appointments, as we said, last for up to an hour. At the end of the appointment, what you will receive is a follow-up email containing any information agreed and also a suggested action plan, including some next steps. And what we do say is you can use the service as many times as you need to. So typically what we do find is somebody may come to us, use the service, have really good experience. The next time they have a need for their business, they typically will come back to us as their first point of contact. Just to now give you, I guess, an insight into the types of topics we will talk about and try and provide support with through the Business Support Helpline. So firstly, business planning. So typically we talk about this a lot throughout the course of the working day. So what we will typically talk about is what to consider when putting together a business plan in terms of market research. We'll talk about the various aspects of the plan, including things like cash flow forecasting. We can provide access to business plan templates and cash flow forecasting templates. We can point you in the direction of useful market research material. And what we can also do as well is help identify local opportunities to maybe get some support. Now, that can include things like mentoring. Now, in terms of business planning, the other thing we will typically say is that while the business plan is not a legal requirement, it is likely to be required if you're looking to source finance. Even if you're not in a position where you need to source finance, the business plan can still be a really useful exercise to go through. And in order to maximize the effectiveness of the business plan, it is very much a working document. So what you should be looking to do ideally is look at the targets you have set, regularly monitor how the business is performing against what targets you have set. And the business plan itself, it's not something that should be set in stone. It is very much a working document. So if, for example, you find you're exceeding your targets, you might think, well, actually, I'm going to readjust those targets because we're actually performing better than we thought we would at this particular life stage of the business. Alternatively, if you find the business is not where you were hoping it would be, then I guess what you can then look at is, right, what are the barriers? Why are you not where you would expect to be at this particular time for the business? And again, that may involve some adjustment of the plan itself. We also talk about legal structures and tax. So we do field a lot of inquiries where typically people may be unsure of what legal structure to choose. So for example, should I be a sole trader or should I maybe be a limited company? And what are the tax implications of each of those options? So again, what we will do, we will look to provide insight into the different legal structures, what the key differences are. We will talk to you maybe about what's important for you from a legal structure. So for example, are you looking for protection against personal liability? Are you maybe looking for something that's relatively straightforward, easy to manage with no actual ongoing administration fees? And what are the tax implications attached to those various options? And what we can do, as well as giving you some detail via telephone, web chat, email, or social media, we can then also provide some useful guidance. And we can also point you in the direction of some expert advice if needs be as well. We can also look at what support programs are available for you. So we have a very comprehensive database, which we can break down to not just a regional level, but we can also look nationally as well. So that can include things like, are there any mentoring programs in your local area? If so, are they either fully funded or subsidized in some way? What might the eligibility criteria be? And who might you need to obviously contact in order to access that support? And again, we can then put all of that information together as part of your action plan to actually send over to you. We do get, as you can imagine, a lot of inquiries regarding finance, particularly from people who are maybe looking to start the business or a little bit later down the line in a position where they can hopefully grow and expand the business. So again, what we can do for you is do a comprehensive search to find out, are there any grant opportunities available for you? Are there any loan options? If you're interested in equity finance or crowdfunding, we can point you towards some of the recognized platforms. And we've got a really good understanding of all of the various government related schemes. So whether they're central government or local government funded, we've typically got an awareness of what they are, where they are, and who you need to contact, and we can provide all of that information for you. If you're looking to maybe build a network or just network in general, again, we've got details of all of the various networking groups, both on a regional and national level. They can be really useful if you're looking to create awareness of what your business is in the local area. If you're maybe looking to build a supply chain or form a working partnership, then networking can be a good way to achieve that. And again, we can point you in the direction of some of the particular groups that might be worth considering. Regarding sales and marketing, again, we can talk to you about what the different options are. So it's important to know, obviously, who your target audience is. That will then allow you to maybe think about, right, what are the best marketing tools to maybe try and attract that audience. So we can give some good insight into that. Again, we've got some really useful guides. We can look to see if there are any maybe workshops or individual one-to-one sessions available to you, again, where you can maybe build your knowledge. Also, if you're looking at maybe international trade in the form of export at any stage in the business, we can talk to you about organisations such as the Department for International Trade and how they might be able to help you with your export planning. Another really important one is regulation. So it's really important to understand, first of all, what regulations may apply to your business based on the product or service you're offering. And then also how might you need to meet those regulations in terms of, do you need any licenses in place? So again, we can help you identify that. I guess a classic example, and something I'll maybe come on to show you in a moment, is things like a food-based business. There are a lot of regulations attached to those. Some of them have timeframes attached to them as well. And it's important that you're aware of those and you have everything in place prior to starting the business, just so there's no delay in you starting, which, if there is, sometimes might have a bit of an impact on the cash flow side of things. Employment of staff. So again, we can cover all of the various regulations relating to staff employment, what is a mandatory requirement in terms of things like insurance covers, what are the tax obligations. If, for example, you were looking to create apprenticeship roles, we can talk to you about how that works and also help you identify if there is any funding available to support you in the job creation. Premises. So again, a lot of businesses at some stage, whether it's from day one or a little bit later down the line, may decide they want to operate from premises. So we can help you with that in terms of providing access to premises search directories. So you can start to take a look at what premises options may be available to you. We can talk to you as well about the type of research to maybe consider when looking to take a business premises on. For example, have you had a chance to visit the area at different days of the week, different times of the day, just to get an idea as to what the footfall is? Are you aware of what competitions there? Are the premises accessible? Are there any developments planned for the near future in that particular area that may have a positive or negative impact on you trading from that particular location? We can do the same with supply chains as well, in terms of helping you identify are there any suitable supply chains open to you, and with insurance covers in terms of, again, identifying what insurance covers may be mandatory based on what you're offering, but also what insurance covers might be sensible to consider. Intellectual property, we can talk to you about that in some great detail. So with the intellectual property, I guess it's important to understand, is there any element of your business that you're keen to protect? And if so, what is the process for doing that? But also just to make sure you're not infringing on anybody else's intellectual property as well. And within that, we also can talk about things like innovation and I guess also productivity. So just to make sure you're getting the most out of the infrastructure that you have in place for the business. So there are a lot of the stuff we tend to talk about on a regular basis. What I'd like to do now is just to give you a couple of scenarios, and these are typical scenarios of the types of inquiries we get where people's maybe looking to start a business, and just give you an insight into some of the things we might talk about in order to actually help the individual or the business itself in terms of not just setting up but moving forward. So scenario one, I am planning to set up a cafe. I have a passion for cooking food, but have never run a business before and need to raise finance. Now, because of the nature of that inquiry, a tier 2 appointment would be offered. In terms of the interaction with the tier 2 advisor, client's business plan was discussed, identified nothing down on paper, so provided a business plan template and signposted to the regional growth hub to gain access to a mentor. And again, as we've said, we'll talk about the growth hubs in a moment or two in a little bit more detail. Now, it was identified that the client needed finance in order to start the business. Further conversation indicated a figure of around about 15,000. So details for the government startup loan scheme was provided. And again, that's something we'll talk about in a moment or two. Food business regulations were covered and details were provided for the local authority. So the client can arrange for an inspection of the premises and also to register as a food-based business. Now, the registration of the food-based business, that must be done at least 28 days prior to you being given authorization to trade. So again, that's why it's so important to understand and identify what the regulations actually are. Moving on, no past experience of employing staff. So again, covered the regulations. A very useful guide from gov.uk is available and was provided, which pretty much step-by-step indicates what you need to do. And also provided details for an organisation called ACAS. Now, ACAS have a helpline where they can indicate what employment regulations may apply to you. They also have some very good templates available free of charge for things like statements of employment that you can download from their website. Moving on to scenario 2, so fashion design graduate wishing to turn designs into a business, keen to build a recognised brand and already have generated potential interest, including from overseas. Need finance and interested in some general guidance. So again, because of the nature of the enquiry, a tier 2 appointment was booked. With the brand being so important to the future of the business, the intellectual property side of things was discussed at the start of the conversation, including the opportunity to potentially trademark the brand. So that means it's protected. And also the importance of just, first of all, maybe checking that the brand is not already trademarked in any way was covered. Client was signposted to both the Intellectual Property Office and to their regional business and IP centre, which is part of their main city library, to get some further insight into that. Clients also needed finance, and a figure of around about £10,000 was identified. So signposted to startup loans as one option for finance. During the course of the conversation, client also indicated they may be interested in looking at crowdfunding as a way to either part fund or raise that full amount. So details of some of the recognised crowdfunding platforms were also sent over to the client to actually review. Export was also planned, and it was identified through the course of the conversation that that would not be till year 2. However, the client was keen to consider what that might involve now as part of the 3-year plan. So details for the Department of International Trade were provided, which is a government service with a specific remit of supporting export. And the client would then contact them to have a look at what help they can provide. Legal advice was also identified as a potential need. So a client was signposted to a local university who had a law school available during term time that provided free advisory clinics where the student is supervised by a professional, and also details for lawyers for your business, which is operated via the Law Society and allows you to identify a solicitor and receive some free consultation time. So as I say, those 2 scenarios hopefully just give you a little bit of insight into typically how we can help you in the early stages of your business. What I'd like to do now is just to move on to talk about some of the schemes that we've already touched upon, but just in a little bit more detail. So we talked about a growth hub. So just to break that down into a little bit more detail for you. So 38 growth hubs located across the country. They're typically a mixture of public and private sector partnerships, which are typically led by the local enterprise partnerships. They aim to join up local and national business support to make it easier for businesses to access help that is needed. Each growth hub has its own priority, so please do check with your regional hub's website just to identify whether the support they have available is relevant to you and the stage you are at with your business. In terms of how you can identify who your local hub is, there is an online directory, and I've included the link as part of my presentation. Also, the Business Support Helpline. For example, we've got very good relationships with all of the various hubs. We can direct you to who exactly your hub is. We can also talk to you prior to that about what their eligibility criteria is. What you might find as well, sometimes even if you're not eligible directly for some of their support programs, they've got typically some really good information on their website that is also worth taking a look at. Moving on now to talk about the Startup Loan Scheme. So this is a government-backed scheme available for application at pre-start and up to a maximum of 2 years of trading. It's a national scheme, but there are regional delivery partners. So you can either approach Startup Loans direct, or maybe you may try and access the fund through one of the regional delivery partners. And typically how you would identify that is when you look on their website, you would typically see if they are a regional delivery partner, they will carry the Startup Loan branded logo. In terms of what they offer, so the minimum loan value is £500, up to a maximum of £25,000 per person involved in the ownership of the business. So what that typically means is if, for example, you're a partnership or maybe a limited company, and then, for example, maybe 2 of you involved, you can each make your own application to startup loans and then combine the money to support any startup or running costs. If, for example, you're a sole trader or the sole director in a limited company, then you can make your own application. Now, the application itself does act as a personal loan. So what that means is, regardless of the structure you choose, so for example, if you were a limited company, with this particular loan scheme, you will still carry full personal liability. Application process includes submission of a business plan, cash flow forecast, and a personal survival budget. The rate of interest for the loan scheme is fixed at 6% for the duration of the scheme, and repayment terms or length of terms start from 1 year up to a maximum of 5 years. Now, with regard to startup loans, it's not just about giving you the finance. If, for example, your loan application is successful, you then also get access to 12 months mentoring support, and there is no charge for that mentoring support. So that gives you that little bit of added value that you've then got somebody there in the form of a mentor for the next 12 months of the business. What you'll also find is the Startup Loan website has some really good information. So in terms of things like your business plan, your forecast, and your personal survival budget, you can actually download templates for that from the Startup Loans website. They also have some really good guides around all aspects of being in business and some very good sector guides as well. So definitely worth taking a look at. And again, I've included the website address on the presentation. If legal advice, so if any legal advice is required, as we've already touched upon, there is a service called Lawyers for Your Business, which is operated via the Law Society. So again, we do tend to get a lot of enquiries around people maybe seeking legal advice, maybe some guidance around things like contracts, premises leases, etc. So in terms of Lawyers for Your Business, available at pre-start stage up to a maximum of 12 months of trading, operated by the Law Society, allows for a 30-minute free consultation and covers things like starting a business, employing people, contracts with customers and suppliers, taking on leased premises, business structures, and health and safety. Tax-related things, again, we get a lot of enquiries around tax. So HMRC have got some dedicated helplines regarding all aspects of tax, so whether it's self-assessment, VAT, employment of staff. Typically you can speak to one of the helplines to gain some guidance. They've also got some really good free online learning tools, including webinars and videos. If you need any more tailored advice, that's maybe more tailored and specific and maybe more around identifying the most tax efficient way to run things, you do have access to the Institute of Chartered Accountants in England and Wales, the ICAW. So professional membership organisation, can help identify an accountant and can give some free consultation time as well. So moving on now to talk about mentoring and I guess what mentoring can do to support you. Now, I always think before you actually meet with a mentor, just to set your expectations, it's important to understand what a mentor actually is. So a simplified definition is a business mentoring is a relationship between you as an entrepreneur and someone with business experience who is willing to act as a guide. The business mentor can offer advice, guidance, and support to help you start and grow the business. Prior to meeting with the mentor, I think it's also important to understand what you can maybe expect from your business mentor. So typically, the mentor should be in a position where they can give you an impartial outside view and someone that will listen to you. So I think sometimes when you're looking for guidance, it is easy to maybe start with speaking to friends and family, but sometimes you've got to maybe question, are they really giving you that impartial viewpoint? Whereas a mentor typically is somebody that has no direct link into you in any way. So hopefully the impartiality is certainly there. With the mentor as well, typically you will get a willingness to share, for the mentor to share their experiences and also best practice. So you're really tapping into their knowledge and what they've done previously in order to be successful within the field of business. The business mentor will hopefully have a trusted network and hopefully will be happy to allow you to get access to either part or the full network that they have. And also the mentor will hopefully be in a position to give you ongoing support based on how long you feel you need that for. I guess in terms of what you maybe shouldn't expect from a mentor, they're not really there to provide a counselling service, not there to provide specific training, though they may provide some general guidance. Also not there really to provide specific technical advice. If it's specific technical advice you're looking for, then that maybe come from a business advisor or potentially a dedicated consultant. However, it may be the mentor through their network may be able to point you in the direction of somebody who can then provide that for you. And the mentor themselves, they're not there to take over the running of the business for you. It is still your business. Ultimately, it is still you who's going to be making the decisions. But what you may find is they're there as a sounding board to maybe help you and provide some guidance prior to you making the decisions themselves. What's also important, I guess, prior to meeting with a mentor, because your time is very valuable, then you want to make sure you're fully prepared for that meeting in order to maximize any time you're taking out of your working day. So typically what we would suggest doing is identify what, if any, concerns you have around moving forward. So if, for example, you're worried that you're not going to generate the right type of customers and your concerns around the marketing, then think, when you're going to meet with the mentor, what type of skill set and experience you would like the mentor to have. So using that scenario where you maybe think marketing is an issue, you might then think, right, well, is it sensible to maybe try and source a mentor who's maybe got a proven track record or a strong background in the marketing environment? But again, that will be a conversation to have prior to the actual meetup itself. Again, if you need access to a network, what type of network will the mentor have access to, and are they willing to give you access to that network itself? How regular would you want to meet with the mentor, and is the mentor happy to follow your plan? Alternatively, if they put a plan in place for you, are you happy to follow that? Will the mentor charge for support? So again, if you've got a budget in place for this type of help, and it's important to understand how much the mentor charges if they're not a free service. If there are charges attached, then that might then give you an idea as to how many meetings you're possibly in a position to have with the mentor. And ultimately, I guess, what will success look like? So what do you really want to get from this interaction with the mentor? And that should then give you an idea as to how you then might achieve that. I think what's also really important as well is, once you've understood what you want from the mentor, it's really important to then understand where might you find a mentor. So certainly the Business Support Helpline, as we've already talked about, we've got access to comprehensive databases of support schemes. A lot of the schemes we talk about are typically either fully funded or part funded, and we can point you in the direction of those on both a national and a local level. And that's a really good way to help find a mentor. Some of the options may come through the local growth hubs, as we've already talked about, but we will certainly point you in the direction. You also have a service called Mentors Me. So on their website, they have a comprehensive database, which is nationwide, of mentors. So how it works, you go onto the search facility, you indicate what stage you're at within your business journey. So for example, starting up, you indicate what region of the country you're based in, and it will then provide you again with a list of actual mentors to where you can then start to contact them. So if you're provided with a list, it's probably advisable to maybe start to make contact with them, have a look at the individual mentors' profiles, and from there you may be then in a position to make a decision as to which mentor or mentoring service you think is best placed to help you. There are other options available as well, for example, services such as the Prince's Trust, depending on what your personal circumstances are. But again, we would be in a good position if you were to come to the helplines based on what your circumstances are to identify schemes that you may well be eligible for, and then we can provide the details for you as part of the actual action plan itself. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of an insight into the schemes that are, some of the key schemes that are available to support you, and not just the starting up, but the ongoing journey of your business, and a good insight into the mentoring side of things. So that concludes my presentation. What I would like to do now is pass you over to Julie Deane, who's going to talk to you about her business journey and give you a real insight into what that involved. And thanks very much for your time.
So thank you, Paul, and hello to everybody at Startup Day. I am the entrepreneur in residence, have been now for just over 4 years. And so it's my absolute pleasure to join you. There'll be so much information coming your way today. Lots and lots and lots of information, and get your phones out and take photos of screens, or most of it is recorded so you can play it all back. What I would most like to say to you is I come to this very much from the entrepreneur's point of view, obviously. And that is different, you know, so whereas it's fantastic to look at everything that's available to you, the thing that's going to be most important, in my opinion, is the passion and the excitement that you have for your own business, because things will get rocky. They never go to plan. And when things do go a little bit pear-shaped, it's really, really good to know that you're so determined to do this that you're going to find a way around it. And I think that there are lots of things that have to be done properly and well: tax, VAT, payroll. All those things don't come in your face at one time. Every problem doesn't come at one point, which is, you know, just as well. Certainly from when I started, you know, I started because I needed to make school fees for my children to have a fantastic education. That's why Cambridge Satchel was started. And it was really, really important to me to make a certain amount of money. And it's a lot. School fees are really expensive, from not a lot of money, £600, and I didn't take out any financing loans or overdrafts, and to get things done in a very short space of time. And so that space of time was the school summer holidays, because things had got a bit desperate and I needed them to start somewhere lovely, really, in the September. And so from that point of view, the most important thing to me was to love my business so much that I would work on it till all hours and not mind, you know. So I would say that know why you're doing it. That's really important. You know, for me, I had a very clear purpose. I knew exactly how much money I needed to make. I knew the cash flow that I needed to satisfy, and then start thinking about practicalities. You know, the things like, what am I going to call it? What's my logo going to be? Am I selling online? At the moment, you've got no choice. All of these things are important, but just, you know, don't get bogged down by them, because you've got a mission, you know, you've got this great challenge and you've got this fantastic thing that you really want to do. And you know that if you don't do it, you're going to kick yourself forever. So get on with the practicalities. And if you don't particularly feel like doing one thing one day, then do it when you do feel like doing it, and get on with something else, because there's always a lot of things that need to be done. And some days you feel like doing things and some days you don't. And so don't beat yourself up. That is one of the great advantages of doing something for yourself. As for mentors, I would say it's really good to have lots of people that inspire you. When I was at Deloitte, I used to go around audit clients, trying to get together a management letter to present to the board about all these fantastic ideas that I was putting forward, these amazing things that were going to transform their business and really sort of show them just how wonderful, what a gift I'd been to them. The way that I did that was just to go through everybody in their organization and speak to them all and find out, you know, in your job, what's going well, what isn't going well, what should they be doing that they're not doing. It was very often the findings from those conversations that were deemed most insightful by the board. And whilst when you start up, you probably won't have a board, I think that what you need to realize is that you can learn from so many people, and from so many different things. And so, you know, even now, we've got bricks and mortar shops, but as I say, they're shut. But even now, going around some of the food vans, when you get street food, those people have got such great handheld terminals to take your money and take your contactless payments. And so it's worthwhile taking a look at any that you think, oh, that worked well, their signal worked. You don't have to get out and clamber around with their arm in the air. So write it down, you know, the name on the terminal, and just think, that's what I want, because I want to be able to take money from wherever I am, and just get it done. Similarly, when you're starting to do your Christmas shopping, and much of it is probably going to be done online, and certainly the research for it's going to be done online. So take note of which websites you like. Why do you like them? What makes them good? What makes them easy to use? It's those kinds of practical things that you can't afford to think, I'm not working now. This isn't in my little work space. This is me doing my Christmas shopping. So I'm not on the lookout for my business. In this exciting phase, when you're about to start up, absolutely every second is sometime when you might be presented with something that is new or innovative or really, really useful. So don't discount those things. And equally, just be prepared to learn from lots and lots and lots of different people. Listen to some TED Talks. They're really inspiring. Those people are brilliant. Listen to what people think makes a good display, what people think makes a really good photograph for selling things. Whose Instagram do you like? Because if you think who you're going to be selling to, then try and think, well, who are they going to be following on Instagram? How are they selling? Who's doing it well? And so whereas there are so many sources of information, first of all, you cannot allow yourself to fall into the procrastination trap of thinking, I'm going to read one more book, or I'm going to get that book for Christmas of how somebody did something, and then I'll read it and then I'll get started, because that's an excuse. You should be starting right now, and you can just dip into these things, learn a bit, crack on with it, because it's very, very easy to find a reason not to start. There is a checklist of things to do. Work your way through those, but chat to people, chat to lots and lots and lots of different people. Everyone's opinion is interesting. Not everybody's opinion is going to be one that you should necessarily listen to. There will be a lot of people that say, when I started Cambridge Satchel, I had so many people say, well, if that was such a good idea, somebody else would have done it by now. Loads of people said that. And luckily I wasn't put off. And so just bear in mind that what you're trying to do, your idea is unique. You are unique. And the way you choose to do things will be the way that works for now. So if you're looking at how somebody else did something, that might have worked for them, but maybe times have changed. So I worked with a lot of bloggers. That was 12 years ago. Bloggers, they've changed now. Some of them charge an awful lot of money. The ones I worked with, it was early days. I didn't pay anybody to do any of that stuff. It's very, very easy to just start thinking that you don't know as much as somebody else, so you should be paying somebody else to do something. I find, and this is just for me, I find that I'm at my most creative and at my best when I'm not worried about making loan repayments, when I'm not worried about being in debt. And so that meant that I needed to learn to code. I needed to code my first website, because £600 doesn't get you a web developer, especially not back then. The good news is now, £19.99 a month, you should be able to just rent a store, upload your photos, put in your text and get going. And loads of what I had to spend loads of time doing, you won't even need to worry about. So lots of things are going to be a lot easier than they were at the time when maybe the business stories you're reading about were written. So just bear in mind that technology's moved on. In many ways, it's never been easier to start a business. Particularly at the moment, people are spending so much time online. Take a really, really good look at forums, at communities, see what people are enjoying, see what people aren't enjoying. look professional and be professional and seek to do things well, but that doesn't mean looking corporate. That doesn't mean pretending that you're Amazon, you know. So there's a massive difference. I really love buying from small independents because you get that personal touch and you get more of an experience, and it's just a lot more fun to buy something that's slightly different and feel like you're making a difference to someone. So don't think that the little things don't matter, or that the little things are making you look unprofessional. When I first started Cambridge Satchel, we would be taking orders over the phone, and if there was a dog barking in the background, you know, we'd put a dog biscuit in the front pocket of the satchel and say, give this to, you know, because usually people would say, you know, be quiet, Dennis, or whatever the name of the dog was. And so you could write a little note and say, ask Dennis not to chew your bag, he can have this instead. You know, that's the kind of stuff that big corporates just can't do because they're sending out in scale. That's what you can do. And you might not have a big marketing budget, but that's exactly the kind of thing that is going to resonate with your customers, make them talk about you online. And that's the way that word spreads, you know, very, very effectively. So that's my big thing. It's just try to be yourself, try to do things differently, try to have confidence, get the things done that absolutely have to be done, but don't let that suck the absolute joy and excitement out of this phase, because the startup phase is just the most exciting phase. And you've got to give yourself permission to enjoy it. You're starting out on this journey that is just so extraordinary. You know, you just think, where do I want to be a year from now? And the other thing that I would say is write down what in your head you're aiming for, just on day one, because it's very easy to keep pushing the bar further and further and further. And so for me, one of the joys, the complete joys of Cambridge Satchel Company has been, I know that I set out to send my 2 children to a nice school. And that box is ticked. And that gives me incredible freedom. It gives me freedom to be involved with this great organization, the Business and IP Centre at the British Library. It gives me permission to go off and do interesting things and to keep the brand moving forward and to take chances, because I'm not constantly saying, oh yes, well, next year turnover has to be at this level and my KPIs have to be at this level. And people can tell when the people running a business love it. And that's the big, big advantage that you have right at this stage. Anyway, I think I've spoken. My allocated slot is up. So I'm going to just say good luck. Have lots of inspiring things to watch. Take all the lessons you can from films. I love The Life of Walter Mitty. Look at him at the end compared to him at the beginning. Watch films like Chef, where people are rediscovering their love of what they're doing. Read some books, but don't use them as excuses. And make just one really good step today so that you know in your head that you've actually started. Well, anyway, you've got a few more hours of startup day to enjoy. And so I'm going to leave you to get more information. And then hopefully tonight you'll make that first big step, or if you have already started, do something really, really exciting and impactful to move forward. So anyway, thank you very, very much.